Hi everyone, it's Dr. Hudgens. I have spent my day reading your papers and looking at your PowerPoints and have posted feedback in Blackboard for your review. This is one of those weeks that I thoroughly enjoy reading your work because it really does give you a chance of doing something innovative. If you are tired of writing papers, it gives you a chance to do a PowerPoint slide set, which I think is a unique opportunity and probably something you're more likely to do in your professional role than writing a long paper. Starting off with the papers, one of the themes that was repeatedly mentioned, let's see, Courtney, Virginia, John, Maria, and Lori, all five of you mentioned the handoff report as a significant change in your practice. Interestingly, you all also discussed the barriers to handoff reporting and the organizational structures that prevented it and behaviors that prevented it. I think it's so interesting that something that seems as simple as bedside reporting and involving the patient in their own report would be almost intuitive. But what your experiences have been that you've reached lots of barriers and that you've not been able to, and that would be Madeline dropping her bone. She's over my left shoulder. If she gets, hold on. She's a puppy. If it becomes too arduous a process, people give up. And one of you did talk about the fact that that process, though being implemented, had only been implemented half-heartedly because it had just reached so much resistance and had so little support. So I appreciate the insights with that. The electronic medical record was another one that came up quite a bit. I'm always amazed at the things that you guys talk about, but those are really innovative ideas. Interestingly, only one of you included a big biblical perspective in your reflective exercise. And it wasn't part of the rubric, so it certainly wasn't required. But I do want to share an insight that came from one of your classmates, Winnie. She was talking about the reimbursement for Medicare and how Medicare is holding organizations responsible for their outcomes, especially their 30-day readmission rates. And she wrote this, and it resonated so much with me. I wanted to share it with you. It says, what she wrote was, in other words, our reward for bringing in much fruit or souls is contingent on the fruit that abides. Therefore, the full reward of the work of winning souls is not guaranteed to those whose work does not abide. In the same way, Medicare reimbursement will not be awarded until hospitals can show full proof of lasting work. If hospitals can work hard to please insurance companies, how much more should our soul winning be taken more seriously? This is one of those Professor Wow moments that I would have never thought to think about Medicare as in that perspective or that paradigm. But how right that is, that we really are very much looking at the fruits of what we do. And it's kind of nice to think that we could add a little bit of a Christian worldview to our massive federal government. So I appreciate Winnie putting those insights in there and hope that that kind of makes you look a little bit differently at things. When we look at your PowerPoints, most of them were very, very well done. I think all of you really hit the content section. Some of you were more hesitant to take a risk and be a little bit creative with your PowerPoint slides. My feedback to you when you're doing PowerPoint slides is that you use varying slide layouts. So not everything is all in one line with the exact same bullet points. That you use artwork of some sort, whether it's graphs or pictures, something that supports the words that you've put on your slide, and also to minimize the amount of verbiage that's on each slide. You don't want to ever do a presentation that someone can look and read almost verbatim your bullet point ideas. So think about that as you develop another PowerPoint set, whether it's for another course or for your own work. It is one of the things I saw several of you avoiding, which was to add artwork. Please know that the use of cartoons or animation, that's really frowned upon in a professional world. But using artwork that's appropriate to supplement the ideas on a slide is always a good audience grabber. It's always good to help engage your listener or the person that's there for you. So the other piece of that is if you do use artwork, remember to put it in your reference list. I encourage you to use Google Images. Most of those are public, free in that domain, and you can cite them pretty easily. So be mindful of that. From an APA perspective, I would encourage you all to look at the difference when you cite a reference that has 3, 4, and 5 authors. When you first cite an article that is written by 3, 4, or 5 authors, the first citation in your paper has to list all of those authors and the date within the parentheses. After you've done that the first time, the second and subsequent citations only include the first author and the phrase "et al." And then the date. Go back in your APA manual and look at that. Some of you got that, and a few of you needed to be reminded about that. The other thing to be mindful of is that as you work into your papers, you should be using, first and foremost, all papers need a level heading system within it. If you think about level headings as a way to organize your paper, for those of you that are as old as I am, you may remember what it meant to do a formal outline that started with the Roman numeral 1 and then had the big A and the little a and everything kind of scaffolded under headings. The heading system is very much that way. Your level 1 headings should be focused on what you would consider to be a chapter. Big ideas, big concepts. Under a level 1 heading, you will place a level 2 heading, which is an idea that's related to the number 1 heading, but under it. Level 3, 4, 5 work the same way. You just start to graduate into smaller and smaller pieces of the big idea under a level 1 heading. If you start approaching your writing that way, you start organizing your paragraph structure that way, that will help you be disciplined in your writing. It also lets the reader of your paper, whether it is me as your professor, or if you've published, it will be your audience, lets them know what to expect in that body or that section of your paper. From our purposes, you got to use level headings. My encouragement is always going to be to use level 1, 2, and 3. Pretty much 1, 2, and 3 should get you through this course fairly well. The other thing to be aware of is your page headers that go along the running head. That should be an abbreviated version of your paper title. If you've titled your paper Reflective Exercise 1, that's pretty abbreviated. You don't need to change your running header. But if you have titled your paper Reflective Exercise 1, Thoughts about my current practice in med-surg, that's way too much to put at a running header. Back it up to the colon and just use Reflective Exercise 1 as your running header. You don't want the top of your paper to get cluttered. And again, more information about that is available in your APA book. I think that's about it. I think I've hit all of my bullet points. Folks, as you go through the feedback, if you have questions, if I've missed something, don't ever hesitate to reach out to me and say, Dr. Hudgens, I have a question or I have a concern. I'm here. I know sometimes it can feel lonely and you're not really sure, what to do sometimes, and you're not sure whether you can ask or not. Know that the Ask the Professor link is there. It's always active, and I respond pretty quickly to that. But also, if it's something personal, feel free to email me directly. I hope you guys have a great week. I look forward to seeing your work next week with your Reflective Exercise 2. Make sure you read your rubric carefully, and that is a great exercise to practice those level heading formats more effectively. So I'm going to look forward to reading that work, and I'm here if you need anything. You guys have a blessed week. Take care.